So a very warm welcome to Sangha Live, to this session together. And really lovely to see the warm, welcoming messages in the chat. And I hope you can find a place of reasonable comfort and rest as we come into this session together. My name's Nathan. I'm going to be guiding the sessions for us this week. And I'll speak a little bit more about the presentation and the theme. But just to mention the form of these sessions in case it's helpful for anyone to have a reminder or have an invitation. So if you haven't come here before, really feel very, very warmly invited. And really, if you'd like, feel very much invited to say hello in the chat. And I'm sure you'll receive a lot of lovely, kind and welcoming messages. So my name's Nathan. I'm a Dharma teacher, mainly at Gaia House these days, but very happy to be stepping into this space. I always enjoy the Sangha Live community. I'm going to host this 1 hour session, give a short Dharma reflection, give us time for about half an hour of relatively silent meditation together, where I'll drop in a few of the ideas from the theme, so we have a sense of practicing that. And then anything more that we can explore from there, we'll use kind of a questions and responses format. As far as I know, what we're using here at the moment is using the chat also for the questions. So by that point, probably it'll kind of settle down a little bit, be less of a flow going through. But if you put question in capital letters, that'll really help me be able to see those. You can also follow that with a reflection, anything that you feel will be helpful there. So something I like to do, and I think it's important to remind ourselves of doing before entering into a meditation or a meditation session or a teaching and all of that, is actually just to feel into ourselves. How am I doing in this body, heart, mind? A really important question that we get to ask ourselves. And into that, I also think it's really helpful actually just to ask, what's my intention? Get a sense of what's my intention. What do I value? What am I looking to support? And I'd like us to do that as a community. Maybe you do that regularly in these sessions, maybe not. But if we ask ourselves, what's the quality? What's something I'd like to see more of in my life? What would that be? What would speak to you there? And really feel invited to put that into the chat. What would I like to cultivate? What would I like to see more of? What would I enjoy feeling coming through me? What would I like to align my life with? However that kind of question lands for you. Just invite you to enjoy seeing each other's responses, invite you to enjoy offering your own into this space. I'll just name a few as they go by, and in that naming and in that reading, can we feel a sense of resonance to that? And maybe it's not so far actually in that wishing for it, there's already that flavor of it, of the kindness, peace, optimism, generosity. And sometimes in words like spaciousness, you can already feel it's actually starting to tune me into the space. Or a word like ease actually has quite an easing somatic resonance for us. Yeah. And patience. So these words like connection, community, invite that sensibility into experience. So I'd say for myself, this is really just really delightful to be engaging in and feeling into, and yeah, in a sense, staying with this as much as you can, breathing this, aligning with this, and we'll come back to these, so you don't need to put them away. But I'll just say a little bit about this theme. So I called the weekly sessions "Hasten Slowly," which comes from a teacher, Milarepa, and we'll touch on Milarepa a little bit more as we go forwards. But um, I also put in there a quote from the Buddha about crossing the flood. And obviously that's a metaphor for something. It's a metaphor for perhaps many things. Um, Crossing the flood of sensual desire and aversion. Yeah, we can really feel, well, it's quite a journey across. Yeah, it's quite a flood. We can feel also there's the shame, the embarrassment, the regret that we can be touched by. There's also a numbness that can come through in our lives. We need to cross through that. Yeah, cross through that with skillfulness, with alignment, with playfulness, and all of these good qualities that we're talking about here. Yeah, and there's also that feeling of being inadequate, or the situation being inadequate, and these come into play in this way. Broadly speaking, those actually resonate with the five hindrances, the most common ways in which dukkha, um, gets in the way of our existence. Yeah. Um, the flood and being flooded and all of these things, they may overlap. That's not particularly what I'm thinking about in regards to this. Yeah. and and yeah, someone's mentioning that maybe, a phrase like hasten slowly may be co-opted by people for different reasons. Yeah, and here we're actually looking for something that goes beyond just being a paradox, beyond being something that's unhelpful, and into the space of actually thinking, okay, some wise being over time has offered this, and well, this is the translation we found for this kind of offering. What does that say? So just to kind of give you a broader picture, where that saying of the Buddha about crossing the flood, and the way I quoted it was, neither pushing forwards nor staying still. And then the Buddha says, he was asked about this, what do you mean? So, well, when I pushed forward, I was whirled about. Yeah, lost control, couldn't maintain my stability there. But when I stayed in place, I sank. Something sank. Yeah, something fell apart, something dissolved, some ability to be able to contribute, to participate in existence disappeared there. Yeah. So when I pushed forward, I was whirled about. When I stayed in place, I sank. And so I crossed over the flood without pushing forward, without staying in place. I found another way. Yeah. And essentially all of these teachings about finding a middle way, something that contributes, participates, brings us into different ways. Yeah. And we can think about this actually, at least at first. Imagine this was literally about talking about crossing a river, crossing a flooded river, crossing some terrain that was treacherous for us. And those metaphors can matter, can be a great help. But also it's worth remembering, this is actually the Buddha talking about something pretty deep, maybe very deep, actually. The way that consciousness establishes itself with an object. Yeah, it goes that deep. So we can say it's a very deep point, but we can actually access this depth immediately, or at least a sense of it. Yeah. So when we just did this exercise here, what are your intentions? What do you want to support? What do you want to grow? What do you want to move into? All of you spoke about kinds of qualities that we would need. Yeah. The kind of qualities we need to put our effort behind. Yeah. And we'll open up further and further into the helpfulness of these paradoxes and paradoxical, well, don't do this, don't do that, but I've got nothing left. If I'm not pushing forwards and I'm not staying still, what am I actually doing? Yeah. Simply put, and believe me, simply put, not the whole thing, but just simply put, the Dharma is about building and sustaining the wholesome and about dissolving and not feeding the harmful. It's about building and sustaining. Okay. So sometimes we're building it out of nothing. And once it's there, we need to sustain it, the wholesome, the good, the skillful, the beautiful, and dissolving what's already arisen as unhelpful, as harmful. Yeah. And then not feeding the arising of the harmful. You could say that's, simply put, that's what the Dharma is. But it means we have to be careful. That's two different things. Yeah. Could be four different things. The building is one thing. The sustaining is another for the wholesome. The dissolving is one thing. The not feeding of the harmful is another. Two camps. Get the wholesome, let go of the harmful. Yeah. So it means we can't just be simplified into letting go or accepting. Yeah. It depends on what's needed. Depends on what's needed. Depends on tuning in with what we wish to see. Depends on tuning in how we're doing. Yeah. We have a situation in the world. There's always a situation in the world that's calling our attention. And we can get pulled into that. We can get pulled into that and we lose control and we lose sensibility. We lose our capacities to participate. And so as a meditation skill, what we're going to start with today is this process of resourcing ourselves, nourishing ourselves so that we can skillfully meet the inner and the outer world well. Yeah. And if we look into this kind of hasten slowly, it kind of has this, there's two elements there. Like get into this, but not all the way into this. Get ahead of this, but slowly. Get into our experience more, but in ways that don't disturb that experience from being that experience, and hasten slowly. It's quite a refined skill. It's not outside many of your abilities already. I'm sure in some ways, maybe you're already here, you're already doing that. But I wonder if let's play with each part separately so that we can really understand that we can do this. It's not a pushing forwards, not a holding back. It's not staying still. Yeah. When we talk about posture, taking a posture for meditation, we want a posture in which stillness is flowing. Stillness is flowing. Yeah. We don't want to be frozen. We don't want to be rigid. Yeah. Equally, we don't want to be fidgeting around, right? We don't want to be moving excessively. So when it's possible, we will soothe ourselves without moving, seeing if we can open the flow, without having to stretch out. So we find ourselves in as comfortable a posture as possible. Yeah. And then get to know what I like to call what's in the larder. Yeah. Like what's in the cupboard, what's in the food cupboard already for us. And whatever's there, let's not add more of that, but actually contribute to that. Yeah. So if I've got a lot of tightness, let's not get too focused. Let's actually open that out and soften. And we might find that that's what contributes. Yeah. That's what contributes. That's what balances. That's what helps us participate. Yeah. If there's not enough space, make more space. Yeah. If there's not enough energy, maybe we want to bring in more interest, more dynamism, lean in a little bit more to our experience, right? So we can change the intensity of our interest. We can change the sense of space. And slowly, slowly, we begin to cross the flood. Yeah. Find some, the Buddha would often talk about a raft for getting across a flood, getting across a body of water. So we're not sinking into one thing, but actually balancing and creating buoyancy as we move across. So there's a lot here, a lot to unpack and open through the week. But let's start off with a bit of practice in this for now. And then, as we say, we can open up to some questions and responses as we get deeper into it. So I'm inviting you to find what would be a posture that would attune well to those qualities that you were wishing to see more of, that we shared in that sharing of intentions. It could be sitting, could be standing, might even be movement. And have a sense of inviting the body into this moment and inviting the body into this shape, this posture. Body's our friend, nearest nature. And taking a moment to feel, how does the body feel coming into this meditation? Let's take a few minutes for a little tour of the body. If the body feels a place we're happy to tour. And if not, go to something that feels nourishing, the space, the sounds around you. If it's possible, we can feel the contact of the body, of this body, with the body of this earth. How they meet, where they meet. And with the out breath, really allowing a sense of grounding, perhaps even a melting into the earth without collapsing. Melt down to the bones of the body. From there, just checking we have a good alignment in the spine, not too much to one side or the other, back or front. If you're sitting, standing, moving, checking that the head is well balanced over the spine. If it's helpful, we can roll back the shoulders, letting the chest and the implied heart area open up. Feel included. How is the heart doing? Is it tender, sensitive today? Is it bold, courageous? And coming down to the belly. And interested, if you can do it, it could be fun to play with regarding the breath actually as being guided by the diaphragm, this rising, falling, and we can feel that sensibility of the breath from down there. In fact, maybe we're down there, really, not up in the head. We're a whole body being. So if body and breath are accessible to you, to invite you to have a sense of being with the next three in-breaths and feel the enlivening, awakening effects of breathing in. Letting the out-breath happen by itself. If the heart-mind follows that, fine. If not, fine. And as you do that, I just mention anyone who doesn't feel comfortable in the body with the breath. Just practice listening to the arising of sounds, being attentive to the arisings. When you get to the end of three breaths, taking a pause, taking a break. And then when you feel ready, another three breaths with the in-breaths. I'll come back in a couple of minutes. We'll move it along. Again, next 3 in breaths, if you haven't been already midway through, or the arising of sounds in particular. Just notice what impact that has, to feel that enlivening quality of things. What's the quality of actually more resting into the out breath? That grounding, dissolving, relaxing quality of exhalation. With the sounds, particularly noticing the fading away of a sound. If the mind follows more than that, that's fine. If the heart is interested in more than that, it's fine. But we're particularly guiding the attention, out breaths and fading outs. Resting between these triplets of breath, and then engaging again, really with the out breath, really with the fading of sounds. I invite you to see what happens when we bring in another 3 out breaths into this moment. What I'm interested in us seeing firsthand is what the Buddha speaks about as bodily fabrication. The impact of breathing can be breathing rhythm, the pace, the depth, where we pay attention to the breath. But here we're going simply with what's an in-breath do to the system in terms of looking at the quality of enlivening, brightening. And the out-breath, what does that actually do for the system in terms of easing, softening, allowing more spaciousness? We're interested in this because at any time there can be a bit of a pushing forwards, leaning forwards, And maybe there the out-breath can rest us back. We emphasize one part of the breath, can really support that. Other times there's a holding back, a withdrawal, dullness perhaps. And bring that in-breath in with an interest. What's here? We can play with our experience. But we have time for practice. So let's just, again, about 3 minutes or so, really just being with the in-breaths. And then we'll do about 3 minutes being with the out-breath. And just notice in your system what's happening energetically. Is it contributing anything? If it is, this could work for us. This could be something we could play with. We can do the same in the sounds. Real interest in the arisings for now. What's that like? Now, I'd like to invite you to more incline towards the out-breath. Again, if the mind follows other parts of the breath, that's fine, but we're emphasizing that we don't want to miss the out-breath quality. So hopefully those were beneficial and interesting ways to meditate already. Emphasizing just the parts can also make the breath more accessible. It can be a good calming, steadying practice in itself. But hopefully it also gives us a little sense of the difference rather, that it makes to what we pay attention to, those parts. Let's take another tour of the whole body space. Or if we're with the sounds, just a general sense. Are we more inclined to push forwards? Are we more inclined to stay still? Are we whirling about? That we could do with some out breath, calming. Are we sinking a little bit? We could do with lifting with the in breath. Or if we're with the sounds, using the arising quality, the spring-like quality of the in. So we'll continue with the meditation. I'm not sure what just happened, but I was kicked out of the session and looks like we're back in. Hopefully people are joining back in. So what we're looking for at this point is a sense of appropriateness meeting our experience. And we'll go with that. I'm sorry, I'll have to keep reminding it as more and more of us flow back in. Already taking the time to check what's going on in the body, getting a whole wider sense of the body sense, the being sense, if we're more in the sounds. What would we like to contribute? Is it more of that in breath, uplifting energy? Is it more of the out breath, softening, easing? Checking what is here and how shall we meet it, particularly with those qualities of the arisings of breath and sounds and the fadings and pausing, passing of the other. So for those who've just arrived in the new stream, we're just checking in with how's it doing in the body, the heart, the mind, particularly with being thrown around a little bit by the platform or whatever's going on with our connections. Can be a little bit of agitation, so it really might be resting back, and that might even mean physically just leaning microscopically back. Maybe someone next to you wouldn't know that you were leaning back more. You're just inclining into the back of the body. If we're listening to the sounds, it can be more the receptive. Let the sounds come to you. Notice that we participate, we play a part here. At times when we notice we're feeling a bit dull, it can be that we microscopically, almost imperceptibly move forwards into the front of the body, opening into experience, interest, and emphasize more things like the in-breath and the arisings. We're recognizing that we play a part and finding our way to play that part. We take a few more minutes of meditation before we open into questions. And remembering sometimes the little bit of imbalance can be really subtle. And it might be more that rather than emphasizing the whole way to an in-breath or an out-breath, it could be that we play with the amount of intensity, so to say, of our attention. It's quite light, the attention with one part. Maybe it's just quite light with the in-breath. Like we're watching a bird and we don't want to disturb it. So we're watching quite light attention. And then with the out-breath, it could be quite wild. We really just go with it, fully embracing the softening, trusting yourself to play like an artist. It's just making shapes, making colors, not creating that masterpiece. We're playing, we're learning, but we're also contributing. Take a couple more minutes of practice together. As we come into the last moments of the meditation, just recognizing what you've supported, developed, aligned with. And maybe that grander intention of what we wish to see more of in our lives may feel a little closer, we may feel a little more skilled in guiding that. Maybe something to keep alive as we move from one form of meditation into the rest of our day. We not lose contact with our potential to shape our experience, to contribute. So I invite you to begin in whichever way. If your eyes were closed, maybe opening the eyes, but still playing the impact of in-breathing, out-breathing, arisings and passings. To begin moving the body a little more. Still that sense of this dynamic continues with us. Apologies to all those who got knocked around a bit in the waves of the flood of stream ending, stream coming back. I actually don't know quite what happened there, but I'm really happy that many of us are back here. It looks now that it's not recording, so I guess those who will be watching later will miss this bit, and that's a shame for them. But I'm glad that we're here. We're here together. So yeah, we'll open now to a little bit of questions and reflections and that kind of part. Maybe just to mention, I'm sure it's really clear and apparent to all of you, but this is a completely freely offered gift that is given on behalf of Sangha Live and those who come here to teach. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so it says it's recording on your screen. I just haven't got the notification. That's really good news. So freely offered, but of course not free of cost. And I'll just put that Dana link there in the chat. And if you can participate, contribute in those ways, it will be of great help. And if it's not possible for you to contribute in those ways, then really feel this as a gift with no expectation. Yeah. And for everyone, it's a gift without expectation, but it can also be something of an invitation to participation, which is, I hope, actually also what we're doing with this meditation. Yeah. Okay, so Laura has a question. I'll just read it out. Focusing on breathing, I feel the ebb and flow of life with extreme motivation and extreme letting go at each end. Do you think the middle way is often just a split second in time in the flow of life and not at all something we can always count on to guide us? So the middle way continues to refine itself over time. Yeah. As a practice, it's really helpful and skillful to get to know it through things like, the autonomic breathing system, yeah, which is, it's always going on. It's always actually responsive to life. It's always this way of bringing something into being, contributing to the situation we find. Yeah. So if you get scared, breath changes. Yes. If you're falling asleep, breath changes. If you're getting excited, breath changes. Run up a hill, breath changes. Emotional, physical impacts of the world, the breath changes to be appropriate to that circumstance. And what we're playing with here is like, well, what's missing? What could I contribute? Because all of the intentions that we said, they're beautiful and they come from our hearts and they can feel really natural, but they don't often get to express themselves in the world because they get blocked, they get hindered as we say in the Dharma, the hindrances, talking about the ways in which the heart gets hindered from being able to attain its most beautiful goals. So we can use the breath as that way, and we can notice the middle way might be seen as, well, it needs a bit more uplift. So the middle way there is more uplift. And now I feel, yeah, that's actually quite harmonizing. Yeah. Could be that the middle way is more of the out breath, and that softens down or opens out, reflects, these kinds of ways. Yeah. But it might be that the middle way comes at a certain point where actually the breath has already disappeared as a sensation for us. Like our attention is more refined, more subtle than the breath thing. So it's like here, okay, is it more that kind of thing we were talking about, that leaning into, leaning back from? Is it more that we're paying attention to the arising qualities of things, the fading qualities of things? So that middle way thing can continue refining. So if it feels extreme, try lightening the attention on it. Try with it, and it's a bit less intense. Yeah. So the intensity actually comes oftentimes from the attention rather than the thing that is being attended to. Okay, so we can cover more of this as we go on, but great question, Laura. I hope that speaks to what you're talking about. So Penny has a reflection that I noticed surprising granularity, an anxious burden of in-breath and out-breath stillness, followed by a sense of grief, quite intense, a relief to have the break in the middle. And this was rebalancing for me. So yeah, it's really interesting. The breath is a whole journey, isn't it? I spoke a little bit about seasons, the spring, the summer, the autumn, the winter, and we can have all of those kinds of impacts in us, like a somatic resonance with those qualities when we really start to pay attention. And also I think that what's helpful there to be speaking about is that different parts of the breath have a different impact on us. And many times you might say, be mindful of the breath. But when we start breaking it up and dividing it up and seeing and questioning and feeling and particularities of it, we get to see it's a world. It's a world. And what part of the world do I want to be in? What part of the world do I want to be supporting? What part of the world do I want to rest with? And a reflection from Alistair is the triplet focus was a very helpful middle way between drifting into thought and grim determination to focus on the breath. And yeah, I find that too. I'm the kind of person who actually appreciates stepping back, simplifying, so I can come back into the full complexity of existence. And the imprint in our minds might be, well, we're doing a 45-minute meditation, a half-hour meditation, a 20-minute meditation. I've got to be with everything in that period of time. And of course that's an over exaggeration, right? And what can then actually happen is that what makes a meditation for me might be that I'm in this posture until a bell rings, and I forget about setting the intention, and I forget about setting myself attainable goals in which I can actually contribute. Yeah. Meditation could be, again, led by a kind of a motto, which is it's the quality, not the quantity of your attention. Yeah. And quality, meaning in this moment, can I meet it as well as I can for this moment? Oh, I missed 999 moments before. Well, they're gone, aren't they? When we can cry over past moments, of course, and maybe it's sensible to, if it motivates us to be here. Yes, present. And what does this moment need? And what does this moment need? And we don't want to be flitting around too often, but like, let's say for the next 3 breaths, I think it needs this. And it gives us that stability. It gives us that sustainability. I'm going to sustain with this quality. And then to fully make it a meditation for me is then we reflect. What did that do? How did that go? That does feel like a middle way. That does feel like something fresh. Does feel like something new. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for being here, for your reflections, for those inquiries and questions. Apologies for any part that I played, and apologies on behalf of all the other things that I didn't play any part in, to make us bounce around from stream to stream. I really hope that these reflections are going to be helpful and that we can use it moving into and through our days. And I look forward to opening out and exploring where this exploration takes us in the coming days. So yeah, thank you once again for being here, and I hope that I'll see you tomorrow.